Only two car companies on the entire planet are opposing Germany's or Europe's emissions rules. They are BMW and Toyota. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. Is it kind of an interesting coincidence that the two companies that claim Europe's CO2 emissions rules are impossible to meet are the two companies that say the future of the automotive industry is going to be powered by hydrogen? BMW and Toyota both still claim the future of the car industry is not EVs, it's actually hydrogen. So, I mean, I personally think that's absolutely ridiculous, but I'm curious to know, what do you guys think? Do you agree with that? BMW and Toyota, they have urged or lobbied the European Commission not to set mandatory targets for electric vehicle purchases for corporate fleets, and of course for personal purchases as well, arguing it will be cripplingly expensive and counterproductive. Now, just to give you some context here, a plug-in hybrid, that meets the standards. So if you add some EVs into the mix, if BMW and Mercedes-Benz in 2035 and Toyota, if they were just selling plug-in hybrids and EVs, a combination of them, or EREVs and EVs, then they would meet the emission standards quite easily. It's actually not that difficult. The EU executive is set to unveil a series of proposals on the 16th of December that could give the European auto sector more flexibility in meeting CO2 emissions targets, as well as easing an effective ban on the sales of internal combustion engine cars in 2035. Now, you can't ease a ban. Either there is a ban or there isn't a ban. And obviously, European car companies are saying that it's not fair. 10 years is not enough time for them to sell EVs. This package from the European Union will include plans for corporate fleets, such as company cars, which make up 50% to 60% of new car sales in Europe. Repeat that. Company cars make up 50 to 60% of all new car sales in Europe. That's a big number. In a letter to the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and other commissioners, the 67 signatories said the main obstacle to the uptake of EVs were purchase and operating costs. Seriously, they're saying, Toyota and BMW are saying the operating costs of an EV are a reason why they shouldn't sell more of them. Insufficient charging architecture. They're saying that by 2035, there's not going to be enough EV chargers around for people to actually buy an EV. But there's enough for hydrogen though, apparently. Anyway, the letter said a mandatory target would be highly damaging and that the high cost will leave companies with two options: retaining older vehicles for longer or reducing new vehicle purchases. Do you guys agree with this? Do you think that that's true? Do you think that if, for example, only plug-in hybrids and EREVs or fully electric cars are available, do you think companies would then decide not to purchase cars for that reason? I think it's a bit of a weird claim to say that. The letter said a combination of incentives and investment in charging infrastructure is the fastest way to boost EV sales. Incentives were also needed for the second-hand EV market, given many leased cars are often resold after 2 or 3 years. Now, by contrast with all this, Campaign Association Climate Group supports a mandated target and points to more than 120 companies committed to 100% electric fleets, such as EDF, IKEA, Siemens, and Unilever. In other words, most big companies in Europe, they are committing to buy only electric fleets. So Germany and Toyota, I don't know what their claims are, because their biggest customers don't want internal combustion cars. The EU's automotive package, publication of which has been delayed by a week, has been subject to frenetic lobbying, particularly from, like I said, BMW and Toyota. Under current plans, the EU will only allow new cars with zero emissions to be sold after 2035, effectively banning the sales of gasoline and diesel models. European automakers are calling for greater flexibility, but basically they're saying people should be able to buy cars, right, that run on CO2 neutral e-fuels to continue beyond this deadline of 2035. The only thing is, how many people would want to buy CO2 neutral e-fuels, which cost 6 times more than gasoline and diesel? I think it's ridiculous. But guys, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Numerous Toyota executives have claimed over the past 12 months, and in fact the past few years, that the future of the entire automotive industry is not electric. Hell no. It's actually going to be powered by hydrogen engine cars and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. That's the future. They say that electric car sales will never, ever go above 30% market share. In California, you can currently get a Toyota Mirai, the new model, the 2025 model, basically for free. They are $15,000. They used to be $60,000, but you get a $15,000 fuel card, right? So basically you're paying nothing, plus you get 0% interest. However, very hard to find one today because as far as I can tell, it looks like Toyota have actually stopped selling the Mirai, or essentially they're just selling off the stock they already have on the dealer lots. And that's not just the United States, it's also the UK. In the UK, people have actually tried to get test drives, and Toyota says there's so much demand for the Toyota Mirai, we can't offer you a test drive, sorry. And that's the case for all dealers across all of the UK. I did a story about that, Toyota just making stuff up, saying they're in such high demand, the Mirai in the UK, that no, you're not allowed to test drive it. Can I buy one? Well, you can, but it's free. No, I don't know. Anyway. So the crazy part about all of this is that Toyota is still ignoring the fact that customers have a class action lawsuit against them because they feel like they've made the worst financial decision of their lives. A lot of these people paid $60,000 or $70,000 US for these vehicles and they can't drive them. There was about 56 hydrogen refueling stations open in California. Shell, though, they shut theirs down because they just weren't making a profit. They were making such a huge loss on them. They were breaking down all the time. Very common they break down all the time. There's always breakdowns. You think EV chargers are not reliable? Try a hydrogen refueling station. It's an entirely different level of unreliability. Shell just went, you know what? Sunk cost bias be damned. We're going to shut them down. They shut them down so they're not bleeding money. But that meant there's actually now very few refueling stations left in California. So many people are having massive anxiety. You can't refuel your hydrogen vehicle at home, can you? You can't charge it into a plug wherever you are. You've got to find a station, and the station numbers are dwindling. But the other problem is that hydrogen fuel is now 14 times more expensive than, say, charging your Tesla EV or your whatever EV you've got. 14 times more. You might be thinking to yourself, this is clickbait, but actually this information is coming to you from Hydrogen Insight. Now, Hydrogen Insight obviously have a vested interest. This website is actually really professional, very well done, but they have a vested interest. They're basically trying to sell a hydrogen future. And even they are saying this is an enormous problem. They've done the research. They say it is currently 14 times more expensive to drive a Toyota Mirai in California than a comparable electric car after a massive hydrogen fuel price hike, according to calculations by Hydrogen Insight themselves. California's largest hydrogen fuel retailer, True Zero, which operates 37 of the 53 hydrogen filling stations in the state, and some of those have been shut down since, recently hiked the price of hydrogen at all of its pumps to $36 per kilogram.